We're also record.
Yes.
Oh,
And we're
we're
also
recording
we'll still do our same Audacity start
the four of us.
pattern.
Okay.
Four of us, yeah.
Yeah.
Kitty?
Actually, that's his name.
Oh, hi, Kitty.
Oh, it's a big
Hey,
fluffy
kitty!
orange. I'm obsessed.
What's the name of the cat?
Ooh, Kitty.
It's Kitty.
Oh, right.
His name is
Fuck me.
Kitty.
I went through this whole process in my head because a friend of mine has a cat named Kitty, but it's Mr. Kitty, and I was like, oh, Mr. Kitty, and da-da-da, and then I was like, oh, cat, what's its name? Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, we should do
Okay.
this.
Grace, count us in with the Audacity thing.
Okay, here we go. All right, I just
Hold on, I'm not ready. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry.
smoked some orange
I
blossom.
forgot
I feel
I-
all loosey-goosey.
Sorry, I had restarted Audacity, or I shut it down to restart it, and then I didn't finish. I think I am good in 3, 2. Yeah, I'm good now.
That's my job.
Everyone on the right microphones.
Excuse
Setting.
me. Yes, I believe so.
And then I wrote our intro orders in the notes.
Ba-dum-bum-ba-dum-bum.
Allergics.
I need to pull up the chat. Oh,
You're last.
me? Okay,
Mhm.
me
Yeah.
last.
Yeah.
All right then. All right, here we go. In 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay. Hello, hello, and welcome to Stoner Chicks, the podcast for stoners by Stoner Chicks. I'm Kayla Teal.
I'm Stephanie Thompson.
I'm Phoebe Richards.
And I'm Grace Penzel.
And today we have two new friends in the house, PhD
Yeah.
scientists Riley Kirk and Miyabi Shields, who have been educating the masses about how cannabis interacts with humans on TikTok and subsequently became colleagues working on the same project. Hi, Riley and Miyabi.
How you
Hello.
doing?
Hey, happy to be here.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
we're doing-
joining us.
Doing great. Yeah, we're stoked. We love meeting stoner chicks.
Over the internet.
Yeah. Zoom friends.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. We're so excited about your podcast, Smoke and Science, which we found, I don't remember how, but we often say on this podcast when we try to explain things, we're not scientists. So maybe someday we'll get some scientists on here. So here you are.
Here's our scientist. Pew, 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 pew. That's my air horn. Mew, 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 mew.
Pew, pew. And now today we get to say we're not medical doctors. We're just scientists. But
Just scientists.
we'll answer to scientists.
Well, you probably know a lot more about the endocannabinoid system than a lot of doctors. Just going to put that out on the limb.
On the limb. That one limb.
Just one. Unfortunately, probably true.
Yeah, we just had a conversation about that. It's really not the medical professional's fault. It's really not incorporated into the schooling in medical school. So I think we'll see a shift towards that in the future, but unfortunately, it's really not part of the curriculum at all right now.
True.
Well,
And
it
I
is
have
part of the
question-
curriculum. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it is part of the curriculum for them to mention basically like purely the negative effects. We had a medical doctor, well, a friend of ours, Paloma, read like straight from the book what she was taught about cannabis in
Wow.
med school, and it was like may cause psychosis, can cause anxiety, causes like increased heart rate. Like it was just all the negative.
It's like 3 sentences that are all like really terrible things, and then that's it. That's the end of the section.
It's completely terrifying and ignores like the 4,000 years previous. to
Well,
that.
and when I was listening to an episode of your podcast earlier, I was sitting there thinking, "Wow, cannabis really cures everything, man." And so, yeah, very opposite.
Well, I think that's like, it's kind of judged a lot where people are like, oh, people think cannabis helps with everything. And it's like, that's the point. Like that is that why it's such a cool medicine is we have this endocannabinoid system, and cannabis can interact with that, and it can bring it back to normal states, or it can help, reduce things that are overactive, or etc. There's so many things, but the endocannabinoid system is involved in almost every single process in our body. So it is a little dramatic, but it should be. It's incredible.
So for someone, let's say someone's listening who doesn't know what the endocannabinoid system is, can you, in layman's term, tell us, non-doctors, what it is?
Okay.
Yeah, do you
so-
want to go ahead?
Yeah. Okay. So I've been thinking about this a lot because I think I often compare it to serotonin and dopamine, which people have heard of usually before. But I'm going to back up even one step further from that, and just say that everything that we experience in our entire lives in the universe, every single thing we taste, touch, and smell, and hear and see, everything we experience comes through our brain, and our brain processes that information. And the way that our brain processes all of this information is by using like little small molecules or chemical signaling molecules. And in our brains, every single one of us has multiple systems that are in control of all of these different things that help us to interpret what we are experiencing. So if your fingers are touching something, they're sending a signal to your brain. Your brain sends signals to itself, and these different systems work together. So serotonin system, dopamine system. A lot of people have heard of maybe GABA or the opioid system, and the endocannabinoid system is just one of these systems that also exists in our brain. I'm biased. I very much so believe that it is the most important system out of all of the systems in our body. And because one of the things Riley mentioned earlier is that it's the endocannabinoid system is involved in almost every single process, and all of those other systems that I just talked about interact with the endocannabinoid system. So if I were to describe it to someone, I'd say in your brains, you have these molecules that turn things on and off. And if you think about them almost as like, I guess maybe trains also are something that's maybe comparable, where, if you see a train system in a mapway, you have different train routes that can go different places. The endocannabinoid system is like a master system that helps control all of the way that those other systems talk to one another and coordinate their communication with one another. Specifically like how much or like how often they speak to one another.
So cool. So basically our brains are built to process cannabis. Is that?
Or the other way around, I would say it's probably equally. Well, I don't know, Riley, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, so that's kind of what makes the cannabis plant so special is our bodies are, they're totally self-functioning. And if I was for the endocannabinoid system, and if I was explaining this, just Miyabi did an amazing job, but like you have all these signals being sent around and these receivers taking those signals, and then you have little machines that are making those signals and everything. So your body is totally prepared to take the molecules that cannabis makes and interact with that system. Whether you're turning things on, shutting things off, if your body naturally makes too much of something, cannabis can help reduce the amount that it's making so you don't get those like maybe jittery effects or something. Or if we're thinking of seizures and that overactive neurotransmitters, it can say, yo, we're producing way too many fucking of these molecules, so let's produce less. And then that's what cannabis can suppress, those things that we need to suppress, and activate things we need to activate. So although the body does function totally separate from cannabis, the endocannabinoid system does, cannabis really does have medicinal benefits. If your body is a little off a little bit and producing too much or too little, or just a little bit off, cannabis can really help balance out your system, because there's very few, well, I shouldn't say there's very few, not every other system in the body you can just kind of manipulate like that. So for
Not
cannabis,
without grave consequence.
I was gonna
Right.
say, right, and cannabis is so safe, especially for having an endocannabinoid system. Cannabis is incredibly safe to use as a medicine compared to many other pharmaceutical drugs.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah. Well, now we're going to dive into some fun short questions by Phoebe that really encapsulate. These are 2 questions that I think encapsulate some of our top interests.
Sure.
The first question for each of you is, what is your favorite stoner snack?
Huh. This one's gonna
Easy.
be. What did you just say?
I was gonna say it's always gonna be watermelon because it's a drink and a snack.
Oh.
Oh. Grace's
one's
mind is
probably-
blown.
Probably gonna blow mine out of the water. I was gonna go with peanut butter, just like a whole jar of peanut butter, or frozen mangoes.
Ooh,
Oh.
mangoes, yeah.
Oh.
I want to get stoned with you
Yeah.
two. That sounds
Yeah.
good. Great answers. And then next question, what is your favorite animal and why?
Huh. That's
We
a
talk
really
about
good
animals a
question.
lot for a cannabis podcast.
My
Weeds,
favorite
snacks, and animals is mainly our topics.
I feel like I'm gonna be that person. I'm just gonna have to own it. You know, like I'm the person when I was younger that had like all the T-shirts with just wolves on them, like a
Yes.
wolf howling at
Yes.
the moon, in
That is
like
great.
full moon in the background. And so yeah, that's definitely my favorite animal. As to why, I think it's because I read quite a few books when I was younger that had wolves as the centric characters, and then a lot of the dogs that I grew up around were very spitzy, wolfish mixed dogs. So I used to like pretend like I was a wolf. when I was-
Oh, have you seen the movie Journey of Natty Gann?
No.
God,
It's a
Phoebe.
great 80s movie about a girl who befriends a wolf during the Depression and hops trains to get across the country with her wolf friend. It's so good.
That sounds great.
Ivy has been
right-
trying to get us to watch this movie for as long as I've known
A
her.
year.
watch party.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's have a watch along. Natty Gann. Riley, what is your fave animal?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one, honestly. I think I'm kind of my favorite animal that I've touched and snuggled with is my cat by far.
Yeah.
My cat Rick is my best friend, always will be. But for like an animal I haven't cuddled with, I would say an otter probably is one of my
Oh.
favorites.
I was close. I was gonna think you were gonna say beaver.
Yeah, beaver's up there too.
Yeah, I've wanted to see a beaver really bad in Yellowstone. Every time I go, that's always my top list. And I've seen some moose, seen lots of cool animals, get to see a beaver.
I'm sure it'll happen someday.
Believe.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for answering those questions. And now I think back to the science.
So tell us more about how you two met, because I know I'm pretty sure it was on TikTok. Tell us about that and how you came to be colleagues.
I cyber stalked Riley.
Oh, good.
Well, interestingly, I think it had to do with the algorithm. TikTok's algorithm like forced us to be friends potentially. It's like
It's a creepy algorithm. It knows more about you than
It
about
really
Your algorithm.
does.
right, I don't know, it was like the third video. Also, full disclosure here, I didn't have like any social media really. I'd never really used TikTok before, and I was like, I don't know, this thing's like dumb, whatever. And then the third video that I scrolled on was Riley explaining a graduate level pharmacology, like molecular pharmacology subject in a TikTok, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, what? So then I was just like really interested, and then yeah, so then I was like, oh, I want to know about your thesis. I came across the fact that Riley's thesis is so my PhD is in the endocannabinoid system. I studied the way that molecules interact with the targets in our brain and body. And Riley's PhD is studying the plants and all the natural like the source of all of these molecules. So I just thought that was too cool of an opportunity to not like reach out and be like, hey, let's talk about like what you think about drug discovery. Oh, also we both got our PhDs in what is the very beginning phase of drug discovery. Like when you go to discover a new molecule or a new medicine, there's a process to drug discovery. Like, you know, I guess the classic for cannabis would be THC, and then you isolate it.
Wait, Miyabi, your headphones or something just like switched, so your voice sounds very different. It's like
Oh shoot, did it fix itself?
It fixed
did.
itself.
now it's better. Yeah.
I need to not touch anything. Sorry. Okay, let me try and start that right where we were again. The process of discovering a new drug there's like a long process, and Riley and I both happen to do our PhDs in the very two first steps of that process of drug discovery. So,
Wow.
Yeah, and then we met up for like true millennial style avocado toast.
Yeah, we had brunch in Newport, Rhode Island, because I was in Rhode Island still in grad school, and Miyabi was in Boston at their company. And yeah, we met up in Newport. And honestly, all my friends were like, dude, stop being weird. Like, don't meet up with someone from TikTok. Like, you're gonna get killed one of these days. And I'm like, nah, it's fine. Like, whatever. It's totally cool. So yeah, we met up for brunch, and we both have like a very, very specific idea of like natural products and like natural medicine and cannabis and communication. And our conversations just like went very, very well. And then, yeah, I had to finish up school, and then Miyabi ended up coming to my dissertation. That was pretty cool.
Oh,
Awesome.
Probably just the first dissertation ever to be publicly done on TikTok Live.
wow, really?
Yeah.
To my knowledge, I think it was the first one ever. It was awesome.
Everyone-
Sick as hell.
Everyone would log on and go, what the fuck am I watching? Nobody knew what it was. And my
like a
brother's like,
chromatogram.
That's
It's
amazing.
hilarious.
Cool. And so now where you work, you're working on a new kind of edible, correct?
Yeah, it's a new type of extract.
Tell us
So-
about that.
Okay, so in short, edibles are different from smoking. That's like a very well-known thing. And we usually talk about it because we talk about the absorption in the lungs or the absorption in the small intestine, or we say it's the metabolism, right? Like that when you eat an edible, you have to metabolize things first. But what we don't talk about at all is that when you smoke, you're applying really, really high temperatures and heat to cannabis flower, which is really, really complex. Most edibles these days that are in dispensaries are made with like distillate or isolate, and they're pretty much only THC or only CBD, depending on what you're getting. Which is, it's not true if they're, edibles made with like crude extracts, like just like butter or something. But as opposed to flower has, between 300 and 400 unique molecules in every single like nug.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what we're currently working on, is identifying all the different pieces. I mean, there's a lot going on there, and that was something that was interesting too. We have the same favorite like method of ingestion and things that are just like, and the reasons why I think that like just. It's hard to say, like, as an advocate or an educator, like, medically, to be like, oh, my preference is to smoke J's.
And we love smoking joints, but we know also that not everyone in the world can smoke joints, right?
Right.
Like, not everyone has the health to do that, the ability, the space. Like, there's a lot of apartments and places you can't smoke weed, or even states you can't smoke weed. So kind of the goal of what we're doing is to create an extract that provides that feeling that you get from smoking, but it can be in an edible form or a tincture form or a capsule form, because the actual act of smoking does change the molecules that are entering your body. So we want to provide an extract that has that same profile, but you can eat it, or you can apply it under your tongue or something like that. And people will still be able to feel like they're smoking, or as close as we possibly can get with the technology that we're investigating. So that's kind of our goal.
Oh,
Very cool.
Yeah, I don't really like edibles. That's just like, they don't hit me well.
Same with Stephanie.
they don't hit me.
Oh, they
At
don't
all,
hit you
really.
at all?
Not really.
Yeah, one time Stephanie ate a Rice Krispie treat and was like, "Yeah, nothing happened." And then I ate the same Rice Krispie treat, and I tripped balls.
You know what's crazy? So Riley and I did a survey, and I still think, like, to my knowledge, it's the only data set on this question that, like, I've ever seen. But Riley and I did a TikTok survey about how many people can't feel edibles at all, and actually that there would be one of us in this conversation is statistically along the lines of what we got as well. That about one out of every 5 people, 1 out of every 5 or 6 people can't feel edibles.
Wow.
That's so cool.
It's a lot of people. That's like a decent number of people that can't
You're our
feel
one,
edibles at
Stephanie.
all.
Yay!
You're the one.
And wouldn't that have extensive implications for the medical application of cannabis? Because if someone was prescribed like THC capsules or something and then they couldn't even absorb it in that way. Sorry.
Yeah,
totally.
you're right.
100%.
Although
Yeah.
it's still, I mean, I still think that's within the regular range when you think of other prescription pharmaceuticals also have, maybe for different reasons, but can also have that same
Like 1 in
issue.
6 people
Usually,
wouldn't.
usually they know why. I mean, some medications are even less than that. I mean, you really have to dig deep to see what the actual, like, clinical trial implications are in. But I mean, I don't want to. I'm not going to start off.
Sure,
on,
sure.
I won't. Let's not go down that road.
Okay, cool,
We'll
cool.
be down there for a while. Then we'll
No,
start
yeah.
talking about why Riley and I were, like, not enthused about or whatever.
No,
Yeah.
that's I don't.
We love tangents way too much.
Fair enough, and so do we. So before we can't slow this train down, let's take a wait. No, I don't know.
You were doing great.
You're doing great, Grace.
Fuck me. Okay.
That's the
again.
best. That's the best transition. Can't slow this train down.
We can't do it.
Well, let's get this train back on track to the smoke station. Okay. And now it's time for a smoke break.
That was great.
I can't hold it
I'm gonna
together.
smoke.
Yeah, I can smoke on a smoke break.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get my bong. I'll be right.
Do
back.
it. Yay.
Grace,
cool.
I think Jeff has the exact same bed frame we do, just a different stain. Is there drawers under it?
Honestly, until just now, I thought this was metal.
Well, but is there 3 drawers on each side?
There's no drawers.
Oh, then
No.
it's well, the frame looks exactly the same, but
I
mine's
think
gray.
it's
Like
coincidental.
exact same.
I found my cat.
Oh, Rick.
She's beautiful, or he's beautiful. Oh, look at the face.
Richard, what a face.
All of us but Grace are total cat people, and then Grace is a dog person.
Great. Oh, I love dogs.
Oh, get
too.
Joey.
It's not my
Joey's with Jake.
Okay.
But yeah, we all have our little furry. Oh my gosh, that face is killing me.
So cute.
Okay. You can go.
Oh gosh.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shall we come back in?
Come back in.
All right. Who would like to bring us back in?
Steph, are you gonna ask a question? Do you want to
I
Steph,
have
bring
lots
us
of
in.
questions.
Hey.
bring us back in?
Okay.
Steph, do
Great,
it,
great.
Steph. Go for it, Steph.
Well, that was a great smoke break, wasn't it, fellas?
Yep.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
No, it was great.
That's great. All right. That was an awesome smoke break, guys. Coming back at it. This is Stephanie here, and we have a guest here, Riley and Mayabi. And I actually listened to just today you guys talking about, oh my God, I'm such a bad student. But as I was listening, you guys were talking about chemodiversity in plants and your brain. And that was the stuff that was really speaking to me, but I didn't quite understand it. because you're talking about secondary metabolics. Am I being a good student here today?
Dude, you're doing fucking unreal. You're doing fantastic.
Just with A plus. But that I didn't realize that THC and CBD were secondary metabolics in the plant, that they were created in the plant to do secondary functions, and that was just really interesting to me. And then in on that, you were talking about just the whole, I guess I love animals and ecosystems and biodiversity, so in my head I was thinking of all the different how the systems are working together, where how complex ecosystems kind of work together. But I didn't know if that was right or not. If
It's
that's
so spot on. I mean, it's really confusing because there's so many components to this topic that it's just like a broad topic in general. But you did such a good job describing what a secondary metabolite is. And it's essentially, the plant or any organism is going to make a certain subset of chemicals just to stay alive. It needs to get energy. It needs to build cell walls. It needs to do the absolutely most important things. Those are called primary metabolites. It cannot survive without making those. So that's where it's going to put its energy to start. But then after it does what it has to do to survive, it's going to create a whole nother subset of molecules just to be better at surviving, to start, beating things off in nature, because nature is metal. I mean, everything's fighting everything. You got to stay alive. So that's your secondary metabolites. So we don't know fully what all of these secondary metabolites do, but some of the functions are like protecting the plant from the sun, or tasting really bad to herbivores, so herbivores don't want to eat it, or even like toxins that a plant will produce to make sure that if something does eat it, it gets sick. All of these compounds are called secondary metabolites. So a lot of the molecules that plants make that humans use for medicine are secondary metabolites because they're so specialized. And oftentimes they're specialized for animals like insects that are eating them. And we're just kind of giant insects existing. So when we take in those secondary metabolites, they're interacting with our bodies too, similar to how it interacts with an insect, except maybe it kills an insect and maybe it makes us feel high just because we're that much bigger. So that's kind of how humans have started using secondary metabolites, is we say, okay, well, this plant makes me feel this way, or we take a lot of like our current pharmacological data from traditional medicine, and we say, okay, well, people used to use this plant for this reason. Let's explore that further. And turns out there's a secondary metabolite that's responsible for whatever function we're using that plant for.
That's
Amazing.
awesome. And then when you talk about natural products, you're not just talking about cannabis. What are other plants and other natural products that have different secondary metabolites that offer different, I don't know, if medicinal qualities or just different effects?
So many, but really, really common ones are anything that you've seen as like a tea that's sold in like a store, like hibiscus. The hibiscus flower petals contain MAOIs, which is short for monoamine oxidase inhibitors, and they have antidepressant activity. They will not be like as strong or as singular as a pharmaceutical MAOI, but it contains molecules, secondary metabolites, that have been shown to have that ability. And there's plenty of other, pretty much any, I don't know if this is 100% true, but I think all plants produce some form of secondary metabolites. It's whether or not we find them useful. And
Oh, okay.
we've cultivated certain plants to have more secondary metabolites. Like we definitely have cultivated like we've bred cannabis. It has evolved like with us. Like we have intentionally changed and selected for more of the secondary metabolites, which I think is awesome. I'm really happy you brought up that question because this is like, no, I'm
Me
so
too, me
excited.
too.
I'm so excited. This topic, chemodiversity, is the reason why we decided to work together.
Oh.
Just
And
because,
some like, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna say it's just like when we were talking about it, we were talking about it in the context of the forest, I think. So exactly what you were describing, we were talking about it in the context of like the human body being like metaphorical to like all life on earth interacting with itself. Like the body is that complex. Like if you zoom into like the inside of our, not even the brain. If you zoom into the molecular level of any of the parts of our body, it is as unique of an ecosystem as like the Himalayan mountains versus like the Sahara Desert versus like the Amazon rainforest. And it has as many moving parts or more.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Crazy.
And then you imagine taking the chemodiversity of nature that every plant, fungi, bacteria is able to produce and combining that with humans and taking those things and how chemodiverse the human body is. And then you just have an exponential mixture of combinations of those metabolites in our body. It's insane. It's like a fractal of life.
And it like repeats. There's somewhere where it has to repeat itself. You know, when you're up very high and a river looks like a blood vessel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right. And if you were up very high, like if you look at a desert, it looks like skin cells or like cells under a microscope. There's something there about this, like there's some sort of thing between the like big macro and the micro universe that I understand in fleeting moments in certain perspectives, you know what I mean? But then like quickly lose that the ability to convey what I'm like trying to describe. But you know, the cannabis plant that we use, and we can take these molecules in and that it can give us these effects, and that it's beautiful. I just think it's a beautiful relationship, and it's not magical even after you break down like the cut and dry of what atoms are interacting with what atoms. It doesn't stop it from being any less like miraculous, but it does what it does.
Yeah. Whoa, that's a mega high thought. We love having high thoughts.
Oh.
And
I
you know
have-
that is like part of the reason what we do with smoke and all is it's essentially the most chemodiverse formulation that we can think of. It's your smoked cannabis that you can actually have interact with your body. Because if you were to just take the pure THC isolate, like isolated pure THC, nothing else in there, and that would interact with your body, it's going to feel like a lot. It's going to be super stimulating and just kind of overwhelming almost, because it's just one molecule in super high concentrations. Whereas if you had a lower concentration of hundreds of different compounds interacting with your body, that's a completely different feeling, and the therapeutic benefits could be completely different.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like you're like at the forefront of the future of cannabis edibles. You are.
We hope so.
One.
I mean, that would
100%.
be nice. I think the more difficult thing, that the education barrier that we're trying to help people realize about feeling better and about effects from cannabis is that THC is given a lot of credit, and I think that THC is an amazing molecule. There's like it's a great molecule. It's great. It also happens to be like the first psychoactive molecule that we like identified. And it, you know, for me, from my opinion and from my experience, like my opinion of it is that when you add in other cannabinoids, if we could eventually understand that total interaction, we'll be able to harness a lot of these really unique effects that are otherwise kind of like a fleeting thing that might happen sometimes. Like, you know, every once in a while you get a Bruce Banner batch that's like awesome, and it has this amazing potential to kill headaches. And then
Mhm.
and sometimes you can repeat that, right? Like it's not that it's not 100% repeatable. It's just that we don't know why yet.
Yeah. Well, on your podcast, you do a 2-part episode series about cannabis and pain, which was so interesting to me, learning about how the theory of endocannabinoid deficiency and how that could be leading to a lot of chronic illness like fibromyalgia, migraines. We had a guest on a few weeks ago who said that she had chronic migraines her whole life until she started using cannabis, and no more. And I love everything y'all said on that. So for our listeners, if you're interested in learning more about that, we're almost out of time, but go listen to Smoke and Science because there's so much good info on there. You can listen to the episodes over and over so you can just keep absorbing the information that y'all throw out. It's great.
Yeah,
No,
and if you
I
have
nerded out.
questions, sorry.
Oh no, I just nerded out on you guys the last couple days, and it just has been really informative listening to you. because there's so much stigma behind cannabis use where you're just a pothead or a stoner or whatever, and you kind of sometimes buy into this stigma and not really understand the science behind it, and this kind of unlocks a lot of that and kind of tears down a lot of that stigma, which I really appreciate. That was a long-winded way of saying thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Right before we started recording with you, we were talking about the weed journals that you two keep, and we were really interested in starting that and wanted to ask a little about that. Like, how do you do your weed journal?
And
All
what
do one
should
together.
and what should we include in our weed journal if we start one?
Yeah.
That's such a hard thing to say, like what people should include,
Oh.
because because the best weed journal is one that you're going to keep for a very long time, so you get enough information. So like if you start off gung ho being like, if I were to say like definitely write down like time of day, whether or not you've eaten like the full cannabinoid profile and terpenoid profile and everything, like sure, that would be ideal, but you're only going to do that once before you're like, you know,
Right.
In a very specific mood when you're like, I'm gonna get out my fancy pen and write it up. And other times you're like, where's my bong? I need to do this.
I was very methodical, and I specifically looked at CBD and THC first. That was like the way that I did it. So I did like a tea break. It was the last one that it was the last true tolerance break I've done. It was a very, very long time ago. Very long time ago. And then like reintroduced things and figured out that I really do like CBD. I like to balance things with CBD. And I didn't know that until then. I was like halfway through my PhD.
And it's also depending on where you get your cannabis. If you get your cannabis from a dispensary, it can be a bit easier because a lot of them come with stickers that already have like your COA essentially telling you, okay, this is how much THC, this is how much CBD. They might give you a lot more information. They might give you less. I like to just like carefully peel that off and put it in my journal if I can.
Oh.
Yeah. My partner recently just like ripped it off and threw it away, and I was like, "Bro, I keep that."
Meanwhile, you have like a scalpel.
I literally, I was like, "Have you not noticed?" But so I usually would put that down, and then I would write like how I ingested it. So like, you know, like I smoked a half a joint of this. I felt this way. Did it make me really tired? I'm very like feeling based after. So I'll say as much as I can about the profile, then I'll write how I ingested it. Time of day is huge when you're thinking about your endocannabinoid system. And then how it made me feel, just like 2 sentences. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
Great idea. I never would have thought
Love
to do
it.
that. Well, Riley,
We'll start a Stoner
Miyabi,
Chicks journal.
thank you so much for joining us. This has been really fun. We'd love to have you back sometime because we probably each have like 10 more questions we want to ask you. But thank you for taking the time. It was really great. And let us know, and our listeners know, where else can we find you? Where can they find you on the internet to get more of this info?
Yeah, so you can find our company's Instagram page at Smokenol, SMOKENOL. So that can be found on Instagram. And then you can find both of us on Instagram. I'm Cannabicam. And Miyabi, what was yours?
Mine's Miyabi PhD, which is
And we're-
spelled like my name. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're both on TikTok as well under those same names.
Sweet.
Except Smokenol doesn't have a TikTok. We're just individual.
Yeah, and that's where
TikTokers.
our podcast, Smokin' Science, posts its updates and stuff. And we're about to start we're really excited for our next season. But thank you so much for having us. This is really fun.
Yes, it was a
This was
blast.
so fun. It was so nice meeting you two.
Great
Yeah,
to
great
meet
to meet you guys.
All right, stoners, thanks for listening. You can find out more about us at stonerchickspodcast.com, Instagram, Stoner Chicks Podcast, Twitter, Stoner Chicks Pod, and TikTok at Broccoli Broads. Have a great day. We love you.
Smoke your weed.
Every day.
We were weed queens on TikTok, and then they
Yeah.
banned us for doing that.
Yeah, the word weed. OUID.
OUID.
I have
Yeah.
I have the website sayweed.com.
Really?
Riley and I were texting one night, and I was like, I'm just gonna buy it. It's $10.
Good.
$10. I'm just gonna do it.
Sayweed.com.
Are we stopping ours?
Oh,
I
should we
stopped mine,
stop?
yeah.
I've stopped
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Bingo bongo. Okay.
Then you should
No.
stop the